محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. We begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the exalted, the sublime, the most merciful, and the one who bestows all mercy. And we ask him to send his peace, blessings, and mercy upon our dear beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and his wives and his family members and his companions and all those who follow their example till the day of judgment. Praying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us and our families and all Muslims and includes us amongst them. Allahumma ameen. Hadith number 34. Before 34, we just finished number 33. It's a very powerful hadith on the idea of establishing justice, settling disputes. How do we settle disagreements in a Muslim society? What is the first step, or what are the overarching themes? That's what the hadith was focusing on. It's a hadith that was implemented to the T. This is exactly how Muslim court worked and continues to work until today. Of course, there's a little bit more complications and advancements as things change in the way that cases are presented, the way that a system might be made about submit your documents by this amount of time, sure. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to these overarching themes that were so resolute that you'll find cases like Umar ibn Khattab and Ubay ibn Ka'b. They both are Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, huge Sahaba. They go to Zayd ibn Thabit over a dispute. And this is when Umar ibn Khattab is the Khalifa. So this is the emperor, right, the president, the king of the largest empire on earth. He's differing with one of his subjects. They go to a judge, and Zayd rules in favor of Ubay. He rules against Umar in this case for whatever the dispute was. This is the system. He goes to him, do you have bayyina? Do you have a clear evidence? If not, he rules against the Khalifa. It doesn't matter who. We also have around the same time, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, that Ali radiallahu anhu and his Jewish neighbor, they come to Shuraih. This is during the time of Umar. Shuraih was one of the main arbiters. He was the main qadi that Umar ibn Khattab appointed. Shuraih al-Qadi, his name was. His name became Shuraih the judge. Right? He was famous as Shuraih the judge. He was the main judge that Umar appointed. He's not a companion. Right? He's from the Tabi'een, but he stuck with the companions, learned a lot until he became the chief justice in the time of Umar. So the chief justice in the time of Umar al-Khattab is not even a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, it's Shuraih. So Ali and his Jewish neighbor go to Shuraih in a case, and Ali loses. Right, he's ruled against. It's over a debt, it's over some kind of payment, and Ali radiallahu anhu loses here. What allows the system to happen? It is the system of al-bayyinatu ala al-mudda'i wal-yaminu ala man ankar. That the proof is incumbent upon who? Who has to give the proof? The plaintiff? No. The claimant, which is the defendant. Or no, that is the plaintiff. You're right, you're fine, Adam. Be confident, even when I'm wrong. It's the plaintiff gives the evidence, and then the defendant would have to take the oath under the conditions that we described. So, something like believe all women. What do we do with that in Islam? Believe all women. Do you know what believe all women is? Are you familiar with believe all women? Anybody who's familiar with it? It's a thing, isn't it? All right. So why is everyone looking at me like I'm an alien? For a second, I was like, did I say it right? So you guys are the problem, which is usually the case. What do we do with that with Islam? What do we do now? There's a string of scandals, and they're saying, just believe all women. It's a very emotional time. We revert back to a hadith like this. It doesn't matter the gender, doesn't matter the case, it's where is the bayyinah, where's the evidence? If it's a he said, she said, what does Islam do? And there's no evidence. And no one wants to take an oath, or they both take contradictory oath that clash one another. He swears and she swears. What do we do now? Huh? You always retract your answer. I need more confidence. There's no consequences, right? So far. I plan to implement them in the future. As of now, you guys are good. So no one's been punished for a wrong answer thus far. No, we can't take a side if there's no evidence. We can't pass a verdict, meaning you're right and you're wrong. The verdict is impassable without evidence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reprimanded the Prophet for passing a verdict without hearing the other side. This is an improper verdict. It's not sufficient. Even if it was right, we don't know who's right or wrong at the end. It doesn't matter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, you didn't hear the other side. So the verdict is already nullified. You know how in court here, if they search without a warrant, then whatever they find, it could be drugs, could be a weapon, is not admissible in court. So likewise, even if it's not about the right answer, the due process was not afforded as Allah said it. So if due process was not afforded, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that, and He cares more about that than the results. What if these people actually committed zina? He will deal with them on the day of judgment. Ultimate justice will be done then. Here He demanded due process. And what does due process look like for that? 4 witnesses with the details that we mentioned. If it's not there, Allah said, do not prosecute, do not investigate. So it's very important that we don't get caught up in the emotions. We don't get caught up in the trends or what people say. We have our system and we revert to it. A lack of evidence eliminates the possibility of a clear-cut verdict, but doesn't eliminate any repercussions. The judge could still say, okay, these people were alone together. Okay, there's circumstantial evidence that harm occurred, even if it cannot fully establish the crime, and then can take action based on that. There could be discretionary punishment. It can't be hudud, can't be the capital punishment like cutting the hands and whatnot, but it could be something in discretionary, something less than that, prison time, fining, and so on and so forth. So this is our system. This is the system that's been determined by the ultimate arbiter of all justice, which is Al-Haq, the truth Himself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, Ahmed. So the scholars have discussed this. They debated, when you get punished in this world, do you get punished in the hereafter? And a lot of the scholars have said, if the person repents, no. And they differed whether if they sincerely repent or let's say they don't sincerely repent, they just got caught and they get punished for it. Would that expiate the sin in the hereafter? But inshallah, if the person sincerely repents, whether they get punished or not, they're forgiven anyway. But especially if that punishment is exacted, that's even more of a case for them to be forgiven. And we have direct proof of that, which is the hadith of Ma'iz and the hadith of Al-Ghamidiyya, the two who committed zina. The Prophet ﷺ established a capital punishment on the both of them and then praised the both of them highly and highlighted their virtue and their tawbah being accepted by Allah. Have you ever passed by something wrong online or in real life and kept moving? Show of hands. You kept moving when you saw something wrong. Why? Why do you keep moving? It's a safe space. I know I say that, then I make fun of you sometimes, which is the opposite of safe space. It's none of your business. So you felt like it wasn't your business, okay? Dunya? No authority meaning what? They're not going to listen to me, or I'm not in charge here. What does that mean? All the above? Okay. It's the easiest way. Just take everything I said and say that. Well, that's fine. I want you guys to think. So, did anyone want to share a specific scenario? No? Any other reasons why people... Go ahead, sister, please. What are you at risk of? So far we have, it's not my business, followed by, I don't have the authority or the power, followed by, I don't know them and what their details are. They might be crazy. That's like a good summary. If it's not, just let me know. They might be crazy, might throw something at me, they might curse me out. Any other reasons? Yeah, go ahead, Nada. You're going to have to higher your voice because the AC is on top of me and that's it. So what are the pros and cons that get weighed? So it's similar where you don't know enough details, where you're not familiar about their context enough to jump in. Does that summarize it correctly? I mean, if no, just clarify, because maybe I'm missing something. It is quite loud here. Okay, so you're not confident about where it's going to go, if it's going to help or not. Okay, so out of all the answers, I was kind of not expecting and hoping not to hear the first one, none of my business. And I was going to actually go for it, and it's written here in my notes that, see, none of us don't care. None of us feel like it doesn't concern us. We're all just worried about the repercussions. But then the first answer was, it's none of my business. So I'm really curious about that. After all we've done, all we've spoken about, the kind of conversations we've had, why would we feel like it's not our concern or we wouldn't care? And I don't mind. I'm not upset about that. I'm just wondering, where does that idea come from? That's not an Islamic one. It was rhetorical, but please do go ahead. Okay. All right. So if they're Muslim, it'd be my business. If they're not, then no. Ahmed? I mean, so my question is, what is the arbitrary metric? What is the standard you're going to use to make these decisions? That doesn't sound like a standard. That sounds like your personal experience. I can stop people from holding hands. I never tried it, but I'm pretty sure I could do it. It doesn't seem that hard. So what makes this I can do and this I can't do? That's what I wanted to hear from you guys. So far we had repercussions. So far we had, personal security in terms of like what they might say. And these make sense now. These are common thoughts and experiences. Yes, sister. Remind me your name, sister, please. Nada. Sure. Yeah, no, if it comes back to you, please do raise your hands again. So that notion, that's what this hadith is all about. That notion of minding your business, does it relate here? Because we already spoke about minding your business. Is it not my business when people are doing evil? Or is it always my business? Number two is, what are the metrics or the parameters or the guidelines or the formula for speaking out? When should, when shouldn't I? And what are the things that I should consider that will help me make that decision? So these are the things that we're going to explore now. Scenario number one. I'll give you a couple of scenarios to think through first, just to see how crazy and extreme you guys are. And then we'll build from there. Then we'll do some scenarios to see if any of this worked, or if you guys are still on whatever side of the spectrum you were when I started. This is how I know if I passed or failed. Yes, sister? Sure. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm not on social media, so that solves that problem. No, no, I'm kidding. It's a huge issue. It's definitely not. It's not something that we could go over in just a quick couple of minutes here. But I'd love to definitely explore the topic. This was in context of the hadith that we covered last week, just in terms of evidence, what's not evidence, what can form a verdict, what's not. It's a very limited scope of analysis. So it definitely doesn't cover any of these things. So please, for the people who who weren't here last week, and even for those who were, it was a very limited scope. And me bringing this up with just a thinking exercise, we're not going to be able to cover all those angles at once. But with that being said, the short answer would be this is a multi-system, multi-leveled system failure. It is not a failure of this system of evidence. That's one part where that part is being messed up. And because that part is being messed up, the system of how evidence is portrayed and stories are being considered, the social media and all these scandals and whatnot, Me Too movement, because of that, that's why I want to highlight here. Like, we can't get taken for a ride by all of this, which is warranted. There's been a lot of oppression. There's been a lot of wrong. The whole system, people have dropped the ball into how they hear stories and interact with one another and take things to settle disputes. All of that has been dropped, and it's all coming from a place of righteous anger, a good chunk of it at least, and true oppression. With that being said, I can't let that hijack my system of how I approach disputes and evidence, because Islam said that. That was kind of only my point. So I didn't touch the actual problem. I didn't offer any real solutions. I didn't say, oh, this is all nonsense, so please don't take it as such. That would be a huge, dhulm on my part, and it would be completely false. So that is a multi-leveled failure of the system. One part of it is this. Another part of it is the system of khalwa. That's a very simple answer to a good chunk of the people's problems in the Muslim world and outside of it. Why do you allow, in any instance, a man and a woman to be alone without a third party for extended periods of time where no one can hear, no one can see what they're doing? That by itself, the fact that Islam forbids this, would solve a majority of it. Even if they're learning Quran, even if it's the Molvi or the Sheikh, that's not allowed. Right? So this problem being ignored across communities, that by itself creates disasters and calamities and has. So right away, we begin to address it with what our deen teaches, things like that. And when we go over these recommendations and these parameters that our deen sets, you're going to find that it solves the majority of these problems from the outset, meaning by prevention, not by a cure. So how do you cure this problem? I won't pretend to know the answer. The cure to the system as it exists now, I can't pretend to know how to revamp or how to fix it or how to start, but I could say the basics that I do know is the Islamic parameters of interaction between men and women, and that's what I'm going to continue to preach. And then if we all implement that, then there will be an organic system change where we all do different things anyway. So the system doesn't need to be changed because none of us, but that's of course could be far-fetched, but at least within our locale, between each other. None of us deal with interest. None of us deal with, any other oppressive system. We have our own system of loaning each other money. It's not far-fetched. Communities do it all the time. And they evade the system outside of it by their own way of doing things. That's something that we can do as well with disputes and with scandals and with everything. So that's kind of, a very brief overview. But it's a very deep question. Definitely needs a lot more time. I didn't do it justice here, but hopefully that provides some clarification. May Allah bless you. Scenario number 1, you're helping setting up the chairs, and you look to the corner, there's a younger brother or sister, depending on what gender you are, 10, 11, 12, about that age, craziness sets in. And you see them climbing the chairs in the back, the stack of chairs, they're climbing it. You're pretty close. What should you do? Chairs look very shaky. So this hadith is about enjoining good, forbidding evil. So let's set this baseline, see what you would do and why, and then we'll explore the ideas of the hadith, then we'll go back to some scenarios and see if you got any wiser. So chairs look wobbly. Here's your options. You could say, hey, get down. You could rush forward and gently take them down, or you could grab some popcorn. I hate popcorn. I just can't stand it. Not its smell, not its sight. Even saying it right now is making me feel nauseous. And you just grab some popcorn, and just in case anybody's writing my biography and wants to know. And you just grab some popcorn and you hope for the best and just say, hey, I hope he comes out okay. What are we doing here? A, B, or C? How many people say A, rush and grab them and put them down? Higher. I don't know where the lawsuit's going. All right, how many people say B, yell, hey, get down? Nada's a yeller, so is Anis. That's good to know. How many people would grab popcorn and watch? All right, no one's heartless, no one's a psychopath. That's good to know. Huh? I'm not offering any details. I'm leaving it to everybody's own individual anxiety and OCD. I said, let people figure this out. So you chose A. I think the majority chose A. Good job. That was the right choice. If you had done nothing, or if you had yelled, hey, he would have kept going, he would have fell, or she would have fell, and they would have broken their arm. Which leads us to scenario number 2. Good job, guys. You chose the right scenario. But it leads, you remember those choose your own adventure books? You go to and you go to the next page, then you die, then you got to wonder what the last page was. Then you got to start the whole story over. One time, I read it chronologically just to see what happens. It was the most confusing book ever. A was the right choice. You gently put them down. You say, Habibi, Habibti, depending on which gender you are. You would have gotten hurt if I didn't catch you. The chairs were just about to fall. He shrugs it off and he walks away. But now his parent comes, or her parent, and says, I saw the whole thing. You did not need to put your hand on my kids. You people in the masjid think you can call the shots. You think this is your home. You think these are your kids. You think these, and she just goes off, whichever gender. This is what you take donations for, and they're not stopping. There's a little crowd forming around you now. Your face is getting red. Option A, 2-piece combo. Option B is that you try to explain. You say them, Mr., Mrs., brother, sister, ammu, tant, whatever is your lingo. He was about to break his head, and if I didn't do this. And then option C is you say, I'm so sorry. You just smile, you let them finish, and you walk away. What are we doing, guys? Who says A? No? No one's going to jail? I'll bail you out. How many people will try to talk them down and explain the situation? Got a bunch of negotiators here, overconfident. You don't know what's coming next. How many people say sorry and just smile politely and let them finish? Who here avoids their problems, avoids conflict? I'm doing like psychotherapy analysis on all of you right now, forming, half inaccurate conclusions based on my zero study of psychology. So for those who chose B, I'm going to talk them down and explain the situation. Surprise, this is the crazy auntie, uncle that everybody in the masjid knows that there's no talking to. And talking to just enrages them and leads to option A, which is the two-piece combo. So by you trying to tell them, like, my kid, you guys think, okay, and then now it became a huge problem, bigger crowd, people maybe laid hands on each other. And if you had asked the admin, you would have found out, they would have told you, no, this auntie and this uncle, they're all hot air. They all get upset about things, but they'll be back, their kids will be back, they'll attend all the programs, they'll donate, they're chill. They're just, when they get upset about something, they go off. It's cool. You could have just asked us. So everybody knows, except you, that for this person, you simply smile and nod and everything will be fine. And that's all you should have done. So what's the point of these examples is to show that it's not always straightforward. There's certain nooks and crannies, there's certain details that can change everything about how you react and how you're reacted to. And that's what you are forced to analyze. It sounds like too much work. I'm not interested in doing this. This isn't my job. I got a full-time other job. Well, that's the catch, isn't it? That's where we begin, which is, he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Man ra'a minkum," whoever of you sees it. This is all of your job. All of you got to do this. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of analysis. He says, yeah, that's the Muslim ummah. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat an-nas, Allah said. You are the best nation produced for mankind. You were made for this. You were made for this as a nation. Why? تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. You enjoin good and you forbid evil and you believe in Allah. Belief in Allah came third. Even though without belief in Allah, can you enjoin good, forbid evil? It's not even possible, but that's how crucial this job is. It's not for the sheikh, it's not for the hujjah, it's not for the mulvi, it's not for the guy who wants to do it, it's not for the sister who wants to. It's all of our job to enjoin good and forbid evil. This is a task that we're all been tasked with. He said, "Men ra'a." It's a very general statement, whichever one of you sees. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the entire ummah. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. The believing men and women are allies to one another. They support one another. They together make one society. One half can't do on their own. One gender can't do on their own. What does that society look like? The first thing he said, subhanahu wa ta'ala, they enjoin good and they forbid evil. And then they establish the prayer. Then they give zakah and they obey Allah and His Messenger. This is what a Muslim society looks like. The first component of it, even before their faith, is their upholding of this justice. They're preaching to others. They're making sure that this is their job. When he said, whoever, man ra'a minkum, whichever one of you sees, what does that mean? Give me some categories of generality. That means man and woman. What else? Kids and adults. It's the job of everybody. A physical harm or a spiritual one. Doesn't matter what the category of harm is. What else? You keep exploring this and it'll show you a lot of generalities that people don't consider. Someone who's in authority and someone who's a nobody. Someone who's rich, someone who's poor. The most important of them that every single person wonders and that every single person struggles with is which? Should I command good and forbid evil if I what? Huh? No. No, we're getting to that. The conditions, the risks that might present themselves by doing this. They say, should I forbid others from doing the evil that I myself struggle with? Should I command them to do the good that I myself struggle with? That's the first question that people ask. Doesn't that make me a what? A hypocrite, a munafiq. What do you guys think? We'll continue after the adhan. We'll continue after Maghrib, inshallah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله. استووا اعتدلوا. الله أكبر. تبارك الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ولا تحسبن الله غافلا عما يعمل الظالمون إنما يؤخرهم ليوم تشخص فيه الأبصار مهطعين مقنعي رؤوسهم لا يرتد إليهم طرفهم وأفئدتهم هواء وأنذر الناس يوم يأتيهم العذاب فيقول الذين ظلموا ربنا أخرنا إلى أجل قريب فيقول الذين ظلموا ربنا أخرنا إلى أجل قريب نجب دعوتك ونتبع الرسل أولم تكونوا أقسمتم من قبل ما لكم من زوال وسكنتم في مساكن الذين ظلموا أنفسهم وتبين لكم كيف فعلنا بهم وضربنا لكم الأمثال وقد مكروا مكرهم وعند الله مكرهم وإن كان مكرهم لتزول منه الجبال. الله الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. فلا تحسبن الله مخلف وعده رسله إن الله عزيز ذو انتقام يوم تبدل الأرض غير الأرض والسماوات وبرزوا لله الواحد القهار وترى المجرمين يومئذ مقرنين في الأصفاد سرابيلهم من قطران وتغشى وجوههم النار ليجزي الله كل نفس ما كسبت إن الله سريع الحساب هذا بلاغ للناس ولينذروا به وليعلموا أنما هو إله واحد وليتذكر أولو الألباب. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
I'll tell him on the mic. Hazim, can we have this just TV show the camera? Just so they can see the board. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. So hadith number 34. I don't think we read the hadith, did we? حديث is عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him, narrates that he said, I heard the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم say that whoever amongst you sees an evil, then he must change and let him, or he must change it with his hand. If he is not able to do so, then he must change it with his tongue. If he's not able to do so, then he must change it with his heart. And that is the slightest level of faith. In another narration, there's not after this a mustard seed worth of faith. Meaning a mustard seed is like a poppy seed. Right? It's very small, not even a gram. Saying there's no faith even that much weight if the person doesn't even do this. So that's the hadith. So we were stopping at the first portion, which is saying whoever. Whoever means all of you, and all of you includes the rich and the poor, the people in authority and the nobodies, the popular people and those that nobody likes, the adult and the child, the man and the woman. And the part that we're focusing on that concerns everybody, because this is where they get caught up, is the pious and the sinner. The pious and the sinner both have a duty, because this hadith says everybody. And Allah says this is the entire ummah's job. And so many other evidences that we'll explore together that show that we all do this. But then you get held back by your own record. Why? Because it's hypocritical, isn't it? It's hypocritical to advise somebody with something that you yourself don't do. It's hypocritical to warn somebody against something that you yourself do, isn't it? Who agrees? No, it's not the case. That's not the case. It could be hypocritical in theory, in the description. But it's not hypocritical proper, meaning you're not a munafiq as defined by Islam. It is not good to be like that, of course. And there's a special danger to it, which we see in the hadith and the ayat. أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ تَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابِ. Allah says, you command people with good while forgetting yourselves, and you recite the book like you have the information you need. What's wrong with you? أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ? You have no sense. He's speaking to Bani Israel. And the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, يُجَاءُ بِالرَّجُلِ فَيُطْرَحُ فِي النَّارِ فَيَطْحَنُ فِيهَا كَطَحْنِ الْحِمَارِ بِرَحَاهِ. A man will be thrown to the hellfire, and then he will go around like they go around the hellfire the way that a donkey goes around the mill. They attach a spoke to the donkey, and then he goes around the mill endlessly to do what? Grind the flour, right? It's a donkey, so you just send him all day. He has no sense, no type of like, why am I doing this all day? It's a very specific image of a foolish person, right? Or of something of no wisdom, something that is folly. So this is the knowledgeable person will be forced to act like a donkey. Why? Going around the hellfire like a donkey in a flour grinding mill. The Prophet ﷺ said the people of hell will ask him, didn't you used to command good and forbid evil? How did you get here? And he will reply, I used to command good that I myself would not do, and forbid evil that I myself would do and engage in. So how do we deal with these hadith then? What's the balance? How do we understand it then? Yeah, Ahmed. So by saying that, so that statement will make you feel better? That's it? It's good, you're good? I commit this sin, but as long as I tell them that, hey, I'm not perfect, I'm just advising you, does that cancel it out? Does that get us in the clear for these verses and these hadith that we're reading? I'm asking you, do you feel like it? From my tone, you might think no, but that's just how I talk. You know me by now. What do you think? So you being an active preacher versus you witnessing evil. So this hadith is talking about someone who's like actively preaching and then living a double life. This is your take? It's completely fine. There's no right or wrong answers. Well, there are right or wrong answers, but this is a thinking exercise. Somebody else had a hand up here? Atiq, go ahead. So you're saying there's no discrepancy here, that you work on yourself and advising others, these are two separate actions, you're good. So you're saying that these are two separate actions. The person to advise others to do good and them struggling with that good are two separate categories. They're not correlated, they're not connected. The fact that you struggle with it and fail often, does that make you a hypocrite is the question. Should you continue to engage to preaching others? Is the hadith speaking about you? أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ? Is that ayah speaking about you? You're saying no. I'm saying explain. It seems like it matches. It seems like you're preaching something that you're actively failing at. How could you? Yeah, brother. Okay, so it's all about your intention. All right? Any other takes? Go ahead, Sirah. Okay, it's interesting. The truth is a mix of all of what you guys said. Yes, Aman. Yeah. So the way that you advise them, you want good for them, the same way you want good for yourself. The way that you were struggling, or if you were struggling, you'd want people to advise you. So the truth is a mix of everything you guys said. Every Muslim has 4 distinct duties. Distinct meaning they're separate from each other. The first one is to do the right thing for you. You yourself, do the right thing. The second thing is don't do the wrong thing. That's your entire existence, right? Do the right thing, don't do the wrong thing. That sums it up well in 2 sentences. Then your duty towards others are the same too. Can you influence them, get them, force them even, according to this hadith as we'll see? How much can you get them to do the right thing, whether by force or convincing or influence or advice or bribing or whatever? We'll talk about the how. And then how much can you get them to stop doing the wrong thing? By all of the above as well, depending on what, we'll talk about depending on what. When to use force, when to use convincing, and because this is what this hadith is all about. All 4 of these duties are, what did I say in the beginning? They're distinct, meaning they're separate from one another. You can fail 1 and then pass 2, 3, and 4. You can fail 1, 2, and 3 and pass 4. So in terms of doing the right thing, you did a horrible job. You tried though. Like Sarah said, you struggled with it. You were not very good at doing the right thing. You're not very good at not doing the bad thing. You did a lot of bad things as well. You failed there. You're not very good at getting others to do what's right. But you're pretty good at convincing them not to do what's wrong. So you did that your whole life. Maybe that's your ticket. That doesn't discount the other 4. That's what these hadith are talking about, these ayat. People who purposely say, I'm going to do 3 and 4, forget 1 and 2, I'm good. I'm going to do 2, 3, and 4, forget number 1. Nobody has the right to forsake any of these 4. And by doing so, there's most likely a huge gap or a huge hole or some kind of huge crevice in the foundations of your faith or your intention. So if somebody says, I won't do good myself, but I won't do any evil. Right? That's the definition of arrogance. Like what makes you think that you're okay? What makes you think that you're there? Right? That's already a faulty premise. I'll do good, I won't do any evil, but forget everybody else. Just keep to myself. There's a hadith about that as well. This one being the first of them, which is you don't have that option. It's not optional. So any of these 4 cannot be forsaken, but they're all separate. Meaning you could be very bad at 3 of them and good at 1. As long as you're trying to actively engage all 4 and not forsaking one for the other. So you struggle through and you keep at it. So this is in regards to the pious and the sinner. They're both obligated with ma'ruf wa nahy al-munkar, and that doesn't change the fact that one of them may not be doing such a good job on their own terms, doesn't change the fact that it's an obligation for both. But the obligation will change based on different things. Like we said, your position in society. The ruler, who's the governor, doesn't have the same responsibility as the citizen to enjoin good and forbid evil. He has what? He has more, because he's the authority. He can make laws, he can change, he can pull strings. The father is not the same as the mother. The man is not the same as the woman. The rich is not the same as the poor. Every single person is going to be judged based on the context. How much good could you have commanded, and how much evil could you have forbidden? And then the whole spectrum that we're about to explore, inshallah, very quickly in the next 20 minutes, hopefully we'll wrap it up. What is one of the things that changes the responsibility is the first thing that the hadith says, which is what? Whoever amongst you does what? Sees it. What does that highlight? Physical proximity. If you're there, it's more of a responsibility than if you're not there. Logical? If you're physically present and you physically eyewitness it, it happens in front of you, you have more of a share than those who don't, than somebody who's a million miles away, than somebody who hears about it a month later. Doesn't mean you have no responsibility because you're far, but it changes based on this. He directly said sees it, which led to the scholars debating, is it contingent upon physical proximity? What do you think? Does that mean I have to be physically there for this hadith to apply? Who says yes? Who says no? Who says something besides those two? Because you didn't raise your hand. What do you think? So physical proximity will increase it because you are present. And that is directly correlated to how much you can do most of the time, if not all the time. But for some people, knowledge of an event can make it like they're there. Right? For some people, by me knowing it, I can influence the outcome enough as if I was there. True or false? I can pick up a phone, and then it's as if I'm there. So that person will have the same responsibility. The fact that he used the word sallallahu alaihi wasallam, man ra'a, whoever sees, doesn't make it contingent upon seeing, but is highlighting the physical proximity. That should be obvious. Before I break down the word by word as we're doing now, very quickly, I want to mention just one thing, which is, we kind of highlighted it already. These three tiers of changing it with your hands or speaking out against it or hating it in your heart, they're the only three options. We said this, we highlighted it right before Salah. After or right after Salah. After this, your faith is in question. Activism, calling others to this path, preventing them from evil, telling them not to do this, trying to be an obstacle, this process, this concept, this duty is so fundamental to faith that if you don't engage in it at all, even on the weakest level, the Prophet ﷺ is asking you, what kind of Muslim are you in the first place? What iman is there in their heart? In this narration, he says, that is the weakest of faith, for you to hate it, meaning you're on the threshold. If you don't even hate it, are you a Muslim is the question. In the other narration, he said, after this, there's not even a mustard seed's worth weight of faith. You got like 1 gram of faith in your heart, like you're on your way out. If this doesn't even bother you, let alone you don't feel compelled to change it. So he says, whoever sees. The next thing that he told us, ﷺ, sees what? A munkar. That's obvious, right? Something that is rejectable or detestable. In the Sharia, of course, it's the opposite of ma'ruf. This doesn't need explanation. Something that's evil. Whether it's haram or harmful or leads to haram. We've kind of covered this in different topics. What should you do if you see it? He said, first he said, فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ. Let him change it. What does it mean to change it? Got to write. You guys can write everything that we've missed, if whatever notes you find worthy. But here, I'm just going to pick up where we left off, which is right in the middle. What does it mean to change it? فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ. فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ. So the fa here, remember we were talking about this before. The fa is so he must, which indicates obligation. He's saying that you have to do this. It's not optional. Okay, doesn't roll on the carpet. But man, I'm pretty strong. No, I'm kidding. It's like 5 pounds. I got it. What does it mean to change it? Eliminate. Okay, good. So number 1 is eliminate it completely. Scenario, I have a boombox here. I'm playing music. Abu Mira doesn't wait for any questions. He gets up, and the boombox is on the floor now. Did he eliminate? Is music's playing in the masjid anymore? Did he eliminate the evil? I mean, he did eliminate it. No, you did. He eliminated it. There's no music playing anymore. So that checks the box. Is it right or wrong? We're going to talk about that in a minute, what he just did, if he were to do that. I'd pay money to see that. So what did you say after that? So let's switch those. This is black, right? Black on black won't show. This is black. It's okay. I'm good. So number 1 is actually change it for good, what you said. If I could switch this into something good, this music into Quran, that'd be better. Right? If not, then number 2 is to eliminate it. What's number 3? To lessen it. Good job. So then is the evil still here? It is, but I lessened it. Could you turn it off? Absolutely not. Could you lower the volume? Is that a win? That is a win. Right? That is something that Islam would condone. Changing it means from munkar to less munkar. That's change. It's not ideal, but it's still change. Then he said, by hand. That means physically change the situation. By hand means to physically change the situation. And it depends on the authority, like we said. We'll speak about the conditions in a second. But for example, someone is cursing. How would be changing it by hand? How do you change that by hand, as an example? It's like, no, you tell them that's not by hand, that's with your mouth. Like, I never thought I'd have to explain that. You signal, okay, very mellow. I was thinking like tape to the mouth, right? That's physical, right? Grabbing them, changing by hand. So you said like this, that's very mellow. Calm, brother, I like it. But that would be physically by hand, right? It's a physical changing of the situation. I turn off something. I get up and I use my hands. So it's very drastic. It's very direct. Right? Sister comes in with too much wake up. How do you change it by hand? It's not by telling her to stop. You get Neutrogena wipe, right? And you just... Is that a good idea and will it work or not? That's like a separate story. That's not what I'm talking about. We're getting there. We're saying, what does it look like when you change things by hand? It means directly affecting change with your hand. This wasn't here and I physically put it here. This was here and I physically removed it. That's what it looks like, and that's why... And that is ideal. That is what Islam aims to do first. It doesn't, hold your horses. We'll get there about how you're going to handle it. But this is the first objective of Islam. Meaning the first objective of Islam is to physically implement good and physically stop evil. We'll ask questions later or when the questions are warranted. But our first order of business on this ummah is to physically change it. Rustam, he asked Rib'i ibn Amir, what are you doing here? Right? He's the Persian general. He told Rib'i, why on earth are you here? Are you lost? Like you Arabs used to just fight one another. Like, why did you come into our lands? What on earth do you want? And he told him, Allah sent us to remove لِنُخْرِجَ الْعِبَادِ مِنْ عِبَادَةِ الْعِبَادِ إِلَى عِبَادَةِ رَبِّ الْعِبَادِ. Allah sent us to remove, he said, first of all, we are exactly as you described. Bums, barbarians, fighting one another for scraps, because Rustam said that first. He said, spot on, you're right. We were like that. Then Allah sent us a prophet. And now we're here to take slaves and free them from servitude to other slaves and bring them into the servitude of the Lord of all slaves. We're here to physically change things. Right? This is Rustam's, Rib'i ibn Amr is telling Rustam, the general, we're here. He's like, why are you fighting us? You want our land? You want our property? He says, not at all. We're here to physically remove injustice and evil and physically put good in its place. That is the ideal. That is the primary. That is generally a fard kifaya, meaning it is a communal obligation. And it becomes a fard ayn depending on your authority, depending on your position, and depending on other things that we'll describe now quickly. The greatest examples of this throughout history are told to us over and over in the Quran. Like who? What did Musa do? So, before that even, because that's by mouth, he's preaching. He's speaking to Fir'aun. Before that, changing by hand. Huh? Dhul Qarnayn, great. Dhul Qarnayn went around the earth physically changing things. Physically changing things as a king. Good. What did you say, Abu Mira? He killed, right, when he stopped them from fighting, he physically stepped in and said, you're not going to hurt him. He made a mistake. It's a separate story, but he physically prevented the fight. He didn't just say, hey guys, cut it out. He said, I have physical power, you're not touching him. Right? So that's a good example. Sulaiman alayhi salam, for example, also, he's going about in his kingdom establishing justice. Ibrahim alayhi salam, the idols, right? He physically destroyed them. So this is changing it by hands. What are the conditions? Here's a couple of them quickly. I'll give you 5. These are not the only conditions, and we'll mention quick conditions for ma'ruf nahy anil munkar and in general at the end, but these are conditions for what specifically? Doing it by hand. Number 1, it has to be for the sake of Allah. Right? It can't be for the sake of vengeance. It can't be because of any personal gain. And I've seen this before my eyes. 2 people are arguing and some religious topic, and one of them says, hey, taqillah, shut your mouth. It's like, what are you doing? He starts arguing with the person and fighting using religious wording. So this is no longer like, you're no longer doing it for the sake of justice and stuff, you're just fighting. And the religious wording gets used as a vehicle. Like fear Allah, or that's not right, or that's not amana. And then the religious wording just becomes a vehicle to attack one another. It's no longer for the sake of Allah, you're just fighting like normal people and Islamicizing the language to make yourself feel better. So in cases like that, it's no longer for Allah, you're no longer upholding justice, and it's important to recheck your intention. Number two is a very general one, like it's going to have a lot of things that come under it, but I'll mention a couple briefly, and this is what kind of the whole talk is about. But you follow the Sharia principles. Like what? Like you mentioned earlier, the evil you cannot change by hand if that action by hand is evil in and of itself. The brother is cursing, so I punch him in the face. I stopped him from cursing. Did I do a good job? No, because punching him in the face is haram. It's an evil, so it cannot be an evil in and of itself. It cannot result in a greater evil, right? So if I, stop this person from, give me an example, something that results in a greater evil. If I go tell this brother to lower his voice, he's going to flip out and start fighting people because he's in a bad emotional state. So I'll let him be a little bit loud, everyone just watch out, for example. Random example, that's what I thought of. Let's see if you could do better. Appropriate tools are being used. So by hand, you may not be using your hand, right? You may be using what? A stick. You may be using some kind of physical barrier. You're using something physical. You could be using a vehicle. Is it the best tool? Or is it overplaying your hand, no pun intended? Is it overusing your power? So it's all power now. But there's power like here, Habibi, come this way, and I push him in the back. And there's, hey, this is the women's section, get lost, and I send him flying. Right? That's a spectrum. Which tool am I going to use in the spectrum? All that comes under the Sharia principles, that they have parameters for certain tools. Like what? Like physical violence. The Sharia has strict parameters. For example, one very clear one that I'll tell you that's very applicable here is that in general, physical violence is only usable by the imam, is only usable by the government. Meaning in this situation, Islam warrants physical violence. This person must be repelled by physical violence. Me and you as average Mohs can't do that. It's the government's job, right? It's the imam's job. And if he fails, that's, it's a whole different other story. But this is one Shari'i principle. That the hudud, capital punishment for stealing, for zina, can never be implemented by individuals, and neither can armed warfare, or else that will lead to absolute chaos. So these are all Shari'i principles that if I don't know that they govern changing things by hand, what will I end up doing? Making a mess of things. So there's a bunch of others, but this is just one of them. Another one is that you must ascertain the evil. So there's going to be an overlap between these and the general parameters for Amr Ma'ruf wa Nahy Anil Munkar. These are for changing it by hand specifically. But there's going to be a general overlap. Like ascertaining the evil is an overlap. Are you sure this is evil? You come into salah, into a masjid, and you find everyone praying with their hands down. They don't put their hands on their chest. And they say, Ihdina az-zirata al-mustaqim instead of sirata. You're like, this is a weird masjid. No, it's a valid way of praying. It's a valid way of reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. What was the actual problem? Your ignorance. You didn't know that. Now you're going to stand up. One time I was in a masjid here in Brooklyn, not too long ago. And there was a visiting jama'ah, and there was no imam in that masjid, so they said, there's no imam, our visiting imam, like we're passing by your area, can our imam lead? The whole congregation said, sure, because we don't have an imam. So that guy goes up to lead, and they said, who is your mu'adhin? The congregation said, we don't have a mu'adhin either. It's like one of those masajid that doesn't have any employees, it's just like, on the side. So they said, do you guys mind if we do the adhan, iqam, and lead the salah? And the congregation said, of course not, because we have no one to do all three. So they were Hanafis. And the Hanafis, when they give the iqamah, they do the tathniyah, which is Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Shadun la ilaha illallah, Shadun la ilaha illallah. Everything's said twice, just like the what? Like the adhan. And then you just say qad qamat salah. So you say everything twice. While the other three madhab, they say it once. Allahu Akbar, Shadun la ilaha illallah, Shadun Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the rest of the iqamah. The other madhab favor it once, but they have no problem with it being said twice. They just favor it once, and the Hanafi madhab favors it twice, and also has no problem saying it once. Meaning anyone says the iqamah once with the tathniyah or the ifrad is fine, because no one disagrees that both are valid, they just have different preferences. They stand up and they say with the tathniyah, and this man stands up right away. Well, we're all standing because it's iqamah time, and at the top of his voice he goes, Allahu Akbar, Shadun la ilaha illallah, and he says the solo iqamah instead of the duo iqamah. They all just stare at him because it's random. You just got up, yelled out loud another iqamah with no context. And then he like looks at them and he grills them. He says, هَكَذَا الْإِقَامَة. Like, this is how you say the iqama. Like, he does this too. Like, a little bit of a, and what? They don't know what he just said because he said it in Arabic, and he just stands there waiting for them to say Allahu Akbar. Everyone just stares at each other. And I don't bother explaining anything. I'm not going to lie. I was like, this is not, I need to pray and have stuff to do. This isn't my place. No one's going to listen to me. So, which is relevant to what we're talking about here. Should I have said anything or not? That's a good question. I don't think so. We're about to pray and it's not the time for it. Or after, I had stuff to do. But I'm not on trial here. That's not what we're doing. The point is, should he have said anything? Why? Because there's no munkar happening. He doesn't know that the iqamah can be said. In fact, the tradition for centuries was Mecca's iqamah was always with tathniyah. Mecca was known that they do the tathniyah iqamah. This is what they preferred. He didn't know that. But so he got up and decided to make a ruckus. People don't understand what's going on. They're clearly insulted because he just yelled at them. No explanation, and all evil, no good is achieved. So you can see how basic. And what is this? What are these people going to think about this community? They hate our guts. They don't want us back. Look how much evil happens. And in this guy's mind, he's like, I need to fix their iqamah. This is for the sake of Islam. I can't let salah be established in the wrong way. It's not, you've lost the plot, right? You're not on the right page, let alone reading the right book. Is there a difference of opinion? Is it certain that it's an evil? Are you sure that an evil even occurred? Even if there's no difference of opinion, this is an evil. But are you sure this person did it or said that? All these things should be ascertained. Number 4 is don't go beyond. Don't go beyond. I just wrote beyond. That's like the complete opposite of what I want you to do. Don't go beyond. So you're at some event and they're playing filthy music. And it's like some kind of event where you have authority. You try to advise people, nothing works. You try to go around and it's really bad. And then as you're leaving, you're saying, you know what? I can't be here. At least let me get rid of my own presence. Save myself. Right? Anyone been in this situation before? Raise your hands. A bunch of extremists. So on your way out, you pass by this speaker and you notice there's a bottle of water that's open right on top of it. Do you accidentally stretch on your way out? Who'd do it? Who would do it? It's okay, it's a safe space. No one would do it? It's absolutely filthy music. There's children there. Let me up the stakes. Yeah. Oh, so you care about children? What a bunch of weirdos. So you do it. So this is, don't go beyond. Why would you drop water on the speaker when you could pull the plug? Right? There's other less drastic measures. That's the point of this experiment. I got you good, huh? There's other less drastic measures that could be done. And in Sharia law, especially when you're using the hand, you have to stay within the bounds. A single iota of going beyond, guess who's the zalim now? You are. It's a very difficult place to be. The Prophet ﷺ didn't play with this, right? He is arranging the companions for Badr, a battle. And Sawad is sticking out of line. So he has an arrow in his hand, ﷺ. He turns it over to the butt end, and he hits Sawad in his stomach. And he says, Istawi ya Sawad, get in line. The Prophet Sawad says, you hurt me, my stomach hurts. So the Prophet ﷺ, he's arranging the rows. We're about to fight a battle, right? You guys heard this story before. So he stops what he's doing as the general, and he gives him the butt of an arrow. He says, hit me back. He says, no, Ya Rasulullah, I'm not wearing a shirt right now. You have clothes on. That's not fair. So the Prophet ﷺ takes off his shirt, exposes his skin, and then Sawad crouches down and he hugs it and he puts his face against it. So the Prophet ﷺ says, like, what are you doing? It's a very weird scenario, right? They're about to fight a battle. People are lining up. People have swords in their hands, and this guy's hugging the Prophet ﷺ's bare stomach. You can imagine the weird scene, right? The Prophet ﷺ says, what are you doing? And he says, O Messenger of Allah, you see what the situation that we're in, and I don't know if I'm going to live. We might die. And I wanted the last thing in this world for me is my skin touching yours. Like, I want this to be my parting of the world. Sawad didn't die in the battle, by the way, so he didn't get his wish, but it's still sweet nonetheless. The point of all this is what? In this situation, was the Prophet ﷺ a zalim? No, it's a war. You're out of line. Habibi, could you get back in line? That's like in Salah. Now it's like, no, get back in line. That's completely fine. There was nothing wrong with physical use of force here. But because of how careful he was with how other people felt about it and their emotions, even though he's fully warranted, he said, I'm not going to mess with this. Hit me back. Fine. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That's from his ihsan. But in terms of dhulm, he owed Sawad nothing. He could have said, no, get in line and you might need another one. That's perfectly fine for the general to use that kind of physical force. He's not beating him to a pulp. He's hitting him in the stomach and saying, get it back, right? It's different. He's not going overboard. So all these times that we hear, there's a limit. What is that limit? You got to be very careful. The last thing is, the more personal it is, and we already said this, the more personal, the more authority you need. The more authority needed. So what does that mean? The more it's your hand and your direct involvement, the more authority you better have. The less it's your direct involvement, like you're part of an organization or a group, then the less authority you need, because you are, the authority of the group is what's giving you the power to do this. But the more it's just you and you're directly turning this off, you're directly moving these objects, you're directly telling this person or physically affecting them, you better have more authority on your person to back that up. Because it is super crucial to not be the oppressor in this situation. It will undo all the good you're trying to achieve, all the evil you're trying to undo. Let's wrap this up quickly. If he cannot, what does it mean he cannot? If you can't. And this applies to with the tongue, it applies to with the hands. So if he cannot both times. So he has to change it with his hands. If he cannot, then with his tongue. If he cannot, then in his heart. What does it mean if he cannot? What is inability in Islam to affect change? All right, this is done. Inability to write. You guys like red, right? Inability, first of all, is physical. That's the most obvious. I physically don't have the authority, right? I physically don't have the money or the body to do this. Number two would be, I'm unable because there'll be a harm, personal harm. Sorry, I'm writing it weird. You guys got it. Personal harm will result. So I can do it, meaning I physically could stop this from happening, but if I do, they'll kill me. So I can't. Sharia accepts that. Physical harm. It doesn't have to be just death, but physical harm on a personal level. It doesn't have to be physical, it could be financial, significant harm, significant personal harm. The third thing will be a greater, circumstantial. So physical, I'm physically unable. I don't have, God forbid, sight or hearing or hands. Or I'm imprisoned. So I'm physically unable to stop this evil. I know about it, but I literally cannot do anything. Number two is I'm not imprisoned, I'm not blind, I'm not paralyzed. I can get up and stop this. But if I do, I'm going to lose my job, or I'm going to lose my limb, or I'm going to be physically or financially or seriously harmed. Then the last one is circumstantial, which is if I do anything, worse things will happen. So I can't. Islam will accept that as well as an excuse for inability. Why will I move from changing things physically to speaking out against them? Because if I physically try to change them, worse things will happen to others. I won't be harmed. I could do it, but then worse evil will result. All these are acceptable to move on to the next category. All these are also determined by ijtihad, meaning there's no Sharia hadith or ayah that's going to tell you physically can't hear. Who's the only one who could determine this? You. This is your test in front of Allah. That when you stand in front of him, he says, what did you do for these people? And you tell him, I couldn't do anything. He'll tell you, but what about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? This is what I gave you to affect that problem, by the way. That was your life test. And now you kind of failed. Can you imagine? As opposed to you face him on day judgment and you say, I gave it my all to fix this problem. I used everything. I used the last bit of ink on this whiteboard to make sure that I solved this problem. And then he tells you, by the way, I never tasked you with solving that problem. You were never able to, but I appreciate that you tried. It was not even on your plate. It was not even on your roster. But then you exhausted every means to do so. These are completely different judgments, right? The person who could have and chose not to, and the person who could have never, and Allah never intended them to, but they refused to accept that for themselves, because at the end of the day, we don't know. We don't have either answer. We just assume and say, I can't. It's not fair. It's not possible, when we have no guarantee of this reality. If you can't, the next is by tongue, to speak out. How do you speak out? What do you do when you speak out? So I'm just going to go over these quickly instead of asking you guys, just for as much as I value your input, for the sake of time. The first and most beneficial thing to do by speaking out is to bring someone who could do what? Change it by hand. The best part about speaking out, the most utility that you'll get by speaking out, is that he can change it by hand. Let me just bring him by speaking out. That's like the number one utility. Number two is, is maybe convince others who can bring those who can speak it by hand, even if it's not you directly. That's always the priority. Maybe you can convince the perpetrators who are doing wrong to stop. Maybe you can inform them that they're doing wrong. They don't even know in the first place that's munkar, that's haram. You warn others, maybe the perpetrators are hopeless. They're set in their ways, but you warn others and they won't continue the evil, they won't increase it. By speaking out loud, it's an extra reinforcement for your own self. That you know it's wrong and you're actively speaking against it is another step further as a reminder to yourself. You might inspire others. How many times do you see somebody who shoulders a cause and then you see their kid following them along, and in 20 years that kid is shouldering the cause, the adult is long gone. The cause may have not been important for the kid, but they just grew up into it. So this is what you do by speaking out and making a point. And this doesn't just mean make a statement. Hey, this is wrong, that's haram, stop it. That's not what forbidding evil with your tongue is. That's haram, don't do that. Does that ever work with people? Very rarely, unless they're already on the lookout and they care what is haram, what's halal. How did the Prophet ﷺ do it? He tried so many different methodologies. When he saw something he didn't like, he would go to the congregation first the next day and he would say, مَا بَالُ أَقْوَامٍ, what's wrong with some people that they do 1, 2, 3. He saw who did it yesterday, but he doesn't want to blow up his spot. So he can say, I'm going to advise the whole congregation as if they all do it. What's wrong with some people that when this happens, they do this? Now everybody heard it. The guy in the congregation who has the problem, he's here too. He heard it. He gave a general advice. That guy doesn't feel like he was singled out. He doesn't feel like his spot was blown up. Advising people in private. He would go out of his way, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to mention their good qualities first. He went to Ibn Umar and he told him, Ni'mal Rajul, Abdullah, you're such a great person, except for these qualities I don't like. So remember we spoke about the sandwich method. With the nasiha, what's the sandwich method? After you give him advice, you give him a sandwich, so you stay happy? What is it? Right? Praise, criticism, praise. You're a great basketball player, could watch your language, you make great sandwiches. I know those three are unrelated, but you figure it out according to the context, and you put the advice in the middle. The unpleasant thing is in between two pleasant things. Think about Fir'aun. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa and Harun, قُولَ لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا, tell him a soft word. The greatest tyrant on earth, the worst human being to ever exist, the one who tells people to worship him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, use soft speech. Don't be harsh with him. So Fir'aun deserved soft speech. Being Fir'aun, I think like your brother and sister, could use a little softening of the tone. Right? Changing it with your tongue doesn't mean, hey, stop, you're an idiot, this is haram, you're going to hell. You need to figure it out. You need to finesse it. Add softness where it belongs. Add harshness where it belongs. Change the method. You figure it out. Do it with ihsan. Don't treat all the tools the same. Changing things with your tongue shouldn't be the same as changing them with your hand. That it's blunt, it's forceful. No, there should be some finesse there, and you should consider it with ihsan. They mention at length all the different hadith about advice and giving advice here. We kind of did that when we spoke about nasiha, so we won't do it again. But just important to know that changing it by your tongue should be done with ihsan and well thought out, as well as all of them. Lastly is in your heart. But the one thing I want to emphasize about your heart, two things, sorry. The two things I want to emphasize about your heart, number one is, he said if you can't change it with your tongue, then change it with your heart. How do you change something with your heart? Dua? I don't make dua with my heart, I make dua with my tongue, right? I say it. So, kind of, I want to get technical. So if I hate it, Farhan, does hating it change it? So that's one thing. Number one, hating it will do three things for you. Forget the list of two. Hating it will do three things. He said change it with your heart, not just hate it. He didn't say accept it and it's okay for now. You're still changing it. But then how does it change it if I can't say anything, I can't do anything, and I'm just upset? Three things. Number one is, by hating it, I'm reminding myself it's repulsive. This is not okay. I'll never be desensitized to it. I'll never accept it. I hate it, and I will never fall into it. I'll change, at least on a personal level. This is one member of society that will never do it. That's enough of a change that you're always in control of. You're always in control of one, and that's you, at least. So that's one change I'm fully in control of. This one person, by making sure that I hate it in my heart, I will never fall into it, inshallah. Number two is by hating it, actively reminding myself how much I hate it, I'll be on the lookout for the opportunity to change it. There's no opportunity to change it that will pass me by because I'm so mad. I'm so distressed. Never let yourself get desensitized to the evil of this world, to the images that you see on your feed, to the numbers that come across your desk, that this is just this is what the world is like now. People die. That is not the Muslim. I'm never okay with that. And I'm itching for the opportunity to do more, to sacrifice more, to give it my all, to be a force of change. And it burns my heart every day and night not having enough to do, waiting for the opportunity that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me the opportunity to sacrifice more, to give up more, to change it, I will do it because it's fundamental to my faith. It is not an extracurricular. It's not because I want to go to Jannah and be a higher Muslim. This is why I'm here. And this is why the forces of the world have this laser focus on Islam. Because Islam doesn't believe in live and let live. If we function as a society and we build ourselves and we succeed and we proliferate and our economy is advanced and our technology is advanced, we don't turn into Wakanda, right? Where just keeps this stuff for themselves and the rest of the world disappears. That was the whole point of the movie, right? Where the other person's like, we got to give this to the world. I know it's not real. But the idea here is what? That's the Muslim. Can't. I cannot ever just function and mind my business. My business is in rectifying all of this. I'm the messenger of Allah. This is my job. He said that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his final Hajj. He said, there's some people here and there's some people who aren't here. For those who are here, it's your job to relate those who are not here, because maybe somebody who will hear it and understand it and implement it better than those who heard it directly. And it's your job to pass that baton onwards. Lastly is that it'll save you from its effect. If I can't change it, at least its effect won't hurt me, and that's enough of a positive outcome. What is its effect? What happens when there's no amr ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar? Lastly, he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إِذَا عُمِلَتِ الْخَطِيئَ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَانَ مَنْ شَهِدَهَا فَكَرِهَهَا كَمَنْ غَابَ عَنْهَا وَمَنْ غَابَ عَنْهَا فَرَضِيَهَا كَانَ كَمَنْ شَهِدَهَا. When an evil is done on earth, the one who witnesses it and hates it is like the one who was absent. And the one who was absent but pleased with it is like the one who was there. You'll be punished the same for your acceptance or your rejecting, because that's all you could do. So your heart is significant. لُعِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ عَلَى لِسَانِ دَاوُودَ وَعِيسَى بْنِ مَرْيَمَ ذَلِكَ بِمَا عَصَوْا وَكَانُوا يَعْتَدُونَ كَانُوا لَا يَتَنَاهَوْنَ عَنْ مُنْكَرٍ فَعَلُوهُ لَبِئْسَ مَا كَانُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. Those from the tribes of Bani Israel who disbelieved were cursed on the tongues of David and Jesus, son of Mary. Dawood and Isa cursed the whole nation that they were sent to. Why would the prophet curse their nation? They were so fed up with them. Why? Because they disobeyed, transgressed all bounds, never forbid one another from evil, and were vile in what they used to do. They came to lead them, they found them vile people. Not interested in upholding this, not interested in teaching it to one another or doing anything different. So their own prophets cursed them. وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْكُمْ خَاصَّةً. Fear and affliction, Allah says, that won't be particular to those who did wrong. It's going to hit all of you. That means those who are righteous. How's that fair? Aisha asked the Prophet ﷺ about that. He said, when evil becomes overwhelming and the righteous people are silent, they will all get taken. So she said, how is that fair? He said, everyone will be resurrected based on what? Their intention. Allah will sort them out in the hereafter. But as a town, they're all going. They all failed. The righteous are righteous. They didn't do evil. They'll be judged differently, of course. But they didn't stop the others from doing evil. So they will all be eliminated as a city. The city failed. The town failed. The nation earned Allah's wrath and destruction. Individual judgments is different. Yeah, Ahmed. Let me actually finish this quickly. I'm sorry, because we're almost done. Lastly, he said, the long hadith, I'll just translate it. The example of those who fulfill the commandment of Allah and those who fall into it are like those who drew lots on a boat. People get on a boat and they draw lots. Who gets on top? Who gets first class? Who gets coach? And who gets the deck all the way under coach, right? Who's going to have the worst living quarters? So when they draw lots, people go up and people go to the bottom. There's only 2 levels on this boat. The people on the bottom, they get thirsty. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so they say, we don't want to bother the people upstairs. Instead, the water is right here. We need to do what? Make a hole in the hull and we'll have access to water. They're foolish people. He said, now, if the people upstairs leave them with what they want to do, what's going to happen? They will all drown. But if the people upstairs go downstairs and tell them, no, wait, the water's right here, relax, and they stop them, they will all be saved. He said, that's the example of us as an ummah. You're not in it alone. And the bare minimum to achieve these goals and to not be included in these warnings is to hate it in your heart. So that is a change that is successful. It's on some level. General conditions for commanding good, forbidding evil, they're very similar to changing it by hand. Number one is knowledge. Do you know what you're doing? Is this evil? Number two is to prioritize. If this person doesn't pray and engages in haram business, and you're telling him, let me explain to you why you need to grow your beard, that's a weird conversation. That's a weird approach to da'wah. That's a waste of time, right? That's something that you're not prioritizing properly. That's missing the forest for the trees. Number three is that it won't result in a greater harm. Number four is you weigh the pros and cons accordingly. And then number five is that you carefully select the context, person, place, and time. Number one, you have knowledge of the matter at hand, all the details of it. Number two is you prioritize. Does this need to be spoken about now? Are there bigger issues at hand? Should they come first? Number three is that no greater harm will result from you trying to fix this problem. Number four is you weigh the pros and cons accordingly and act accordingly. And then number five is you pay attention to the context, the person, the place, and the time. These are very general, and there's a big overlap with the conditions of changing it by hand, but you get the idea. Now that you guys have these details, I want some scenarios. We're done now. If you have any questions, I'm going to share some scenarios, and I'll see what questions you guys have. The first scenario. You're walking in your neighborhood, there's a bunch of thugs. You guys know what thugs look like, right? They're up to no good, you recognize them. They go around the neighborhood and they do no good stuff. Fight people, steal, I don't know. I'm not a thug, you guys know what the deal is. And you're passing by the neighborhood, you recognize them, and they're sitting on a bench in the park and they're rolling up drugs. They're rolling weed, they're making joints. And you recognize them, you knew some of them growing up. So what should you do? More important than your answer, I'm going to judge you guys based on your questions. Like, what do you ask? You should be asking details that will help you determine, based on what you learned, what you should do. If you don't ask any questions and you just shoot first, that shows that we just wasted our time. And like, you're not wasted our time, but you're not paying attention to the context. There should be definite questions that you should be asking before you decide on what to do. So what questions are you going to ask? So, do you have a personal relationship with them? Yes, I grew up with most of them. I know them very well, and they know me very well. We took different paths. Don't ask questions. Do they respect me? I've spoken to them before, and they don't really respect what I say. They'll hear it, but they won't really respect it. No. Zero. They'll make fun of it. Even worse. Yes, Anis. Good question. There's no risk of harm. They're my boys. We used to bully people together growing up, so they're not gonna hurt. They're not gonna hurt me. They're for sure not gonna hurt me. Adam, this guy's interrupting the lecture to call you, so see what he wants. I got you, bro. Yeah, Sam. They're not already intoxicated. They are not. They are sharp as a knife. Yeah, Taro. Well, you don't know these guys. They're my friends. They're really sharp. We used to be in a book club. So these are sharp. These guys are sharp guys. It's hypothetical. You're saying, Taro? There's no one to get. Call the cops? Now you're a snitch and they want to kill you. Huh? They'll be like, yeah, throw these drugs away. Let's go get coffee. Because people who do drugs do that. I'm sorry for making fun of it. I just can't help it, guys. But like, think it out. So the correct answer is to let them smoke. Why? Why is that the correct answer? Yes, ma'am. No, that's not a good answer. I don't know that for sure. Whatever I do won't help them. I don't know that for sure. Yes, Taro. Was your hand up or was that Anis? Anis? But I could speak to them, and I'm not in any physical danger. I could take the drugs and run. That's an option. No one thought of that. I could flip the table. I could spill water on it. Can't smoke a wet joint, right? Should I risk? So why are all these options off the table? Yes, ma'am. Well, their happiness is not important. It's not a goal, especially if they're doing evil. So I'm not leaving them so they can be happy. Yes, Amir. No, that's still wrong. I'm seeing a munkar, it's still evil. Live and let live, no, not in Islam. I'm not, just because they're not harming anyone, let them be, that's not enough. That's part of it, but it's not enough. Yes, they are. So, still not enough. So, go ahead, one last one, Savi. What's the greater evil? You're right. Letting them smoke is a lesser evil. What's the greater evil? How did I start? How did I describe them? What do they do for a living? They're thugs, so what do they do? They go around the neighborhood causing harm, beating people up, stealing. If they smoke right now, they're most likely going to watch a movie, get some junk, pass out, and that's the best thing for all of us. Isn't it? Ibn Taymiyyah, they tell him, when in his time, the Mongols have been fighting the Muslims for the past 70 years. They devastated the entire ummah, gutted it, killed millions of people. They come all the way far in, they get defeated, the defeat triggers them becoming Muslim. As huge chunks of them. Some of them were already Muslim, but for huge chunks of them, they start becoming Muslim because of their defeat in Egypt, or actually in Gaza, near Gaza and Ain Jalut, by the Egyptian Mamluks. When they start entering Islam in huge numbers, they don't really change anything. They change their faith, but nothing else changes. They're still raiding Muslim lands. They're still pillaging and murdering and raping. They're still stealing. They're still drinking. So people came to Ibn Taymiyyah and they said, they come into these huge gatherings and they have these huge, drinking things, and now they're Muslim. Should we come and tell them drinking is haram? He said, no, let them drink, because they're going to pass out. And if they don't pass out, if they're awake, they go raid the next town and kill people. The best thing for us is that they're drunk and passed out. So in this case, it might be the right decision. Be like, you know what? These guys, getting drunk or getting high and staying to themselves here is a lesser evil. It's not an easy judgment call to make, but it is a correct judgment call to make in this situation. Okay. There's a few others. We don't have a lot of time. I don't want to stretch too long, but let me see if I could take one here. We already mentioned this one, so you'll know the answer. Which is, if you don't have enough knowledge, you should stop. So what about a situation where you have no means of stopping the evil and you will be definitely harmed? I'll give you a scenario that's going to... So you see the cops marching forward at a protest, and they're here to shut things down. It sounds familiar, Ahmed? You've been in that situation? You've dreamt of it? There's no way to stop them. There's no way, to continue any type of cause. What do? What do you do? There's a lot of options. What are you obligated to do? Are you obligated to stand in that line and say, you know what? Harm is coming. I could stop it. Or, I know I can't stop it. I know I will be physically harmed. I might be legally harmed as well. I might be arrested. Would I be obligated to stay there? The answer would be no. Could there be a benefit in staying there? There could be, which is preventing others behind me from greater harm that are more vulnerable. But Islamically speaking, it's very difficult to say I'm obligated to stand there. Because as you just broke it down, you can't be obligated. Why does Islam not obligate people to be here? It's because this is the work of somebody who wants to go beyond, who wants to sacrifice, who wants to be a hero. And in Islam, you don't have to be a hero. It's highly recommended, it's highly encouraged, but it is not mandated, because that wouldn't be fair. Not everybody could be a hero. The hero influences everybody else. The hero influences all the nobodies. And that's why people like Al-Ghazali and Al-Qurtubi and Ibn Abdul Barr and other scholars, they debated, when physical harm is at risk, a lot of them have said, for sure, you're not obligated, no matter what. When verbal harm is at risk, that's where they debated. They said, really? Are we going to tell people that you're not obligated when verbal harm should be expected? The Prophet ﷺ took the oath of the Sahaba that you will not fear verbal harm. وَلَا تَخَافُونَ فِي اللَّهِ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. That you don't fear, in the sake of Allah, any reproach from anyone who reproaches you, no matter who says what. That's what it translates into. So they differed about that. But the point what I'm trying to say is that they said that the point that it gets to, where you become a hero and you recognize that, then for you, it could become obligated to stand your ground even if it costs your life. But that's like the cream of the crop. That's very rare. But there could be a situation where you are the first domino and who's behind you? The entire ummah. You must die. You must be a martyr. This is your test. Like who? Like Imam Ahmad. Like Abu Bakr. They were literally the only individuals who stood and took a stance in certain situations. And it almost cost them everything. But they didn't have the opportunity to do this analysis because there was nobody else. Abu Bakr said, these people are not leaving the ummah. We're going to fight to bring them back. Umar, everyone said, absolutely not. He said, no, there's no other option. And they didn't know what to do, right? It was a very difficult moment. Imam Ahmad, same thing. They were torturing him day in, day out. And they told him, the Sharia allows you to say whatever. You could say what they want you to say. And then he said, go outside and ask these people. There's people who'd gather outside his cell every day to watch him get whipped for over a month. And he was over 70 years old. Go and ask them, what are they waiting for? And they went and asked the people outside, what are you waiting for? Why are you waiting to see Imam Ahmad get whipped every day? Like, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Sadistic. They said, we're waiting to hear what he says. Everybody's waiting to hear what he's going to say. Is he going to crack? And the fact that he stood firm to his faith, everybody else did as well. So he was a domino. And when you're a domino, it is not the same for you. This whole cost-benefit analysis changes. How would you know that? How would you know that? Huh? Ijtihad, yeah. It's a personal moment. It's one of those make or breaker moments. It's very difficult. That's why, remember, we shared that hadith before, and it's one of my favorite hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is amazed and rewards and raises an individual who is overwhelmed in jihad. And he looks back and he sees that there is no retreat. So he plunges forward and he gives it his all to the last moment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises that person because to them all the means have been exhausted and they're at the very end. And their ijtihad tells them, this is it. There's no indication of that. Should I run? Everybody else is defeated. Running wouldn't be blameworthy in that, right? Save yourself. There's no army. It's all done. But their own personal ijtihad leads them to this decision. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that's exactly what I wanted of you. It's a very difficult moment. It's a very difficult analysis. It's very easy to take even Islamic knowledge and analyze it and say, this is not what I'm supposed to do, and then make the wrong choice. So it takes like a special person, a special level of sincerity and sacrifice, a special life of consistency, giving it all for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make your decisions, the right decisions in these times. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fortify us. The last thing I'm going to mention is that all of our minds in these situations go to Gaza, go to Sudan, go to these bigger picture things. But where's the Muslim campaign against abortion? Where's the Muslim campaign against drugs? Where's the Muslim campaign against pornography? Where's the Muslim campaign against gambling, homelessness? Whichever one of you sees any vice, he must change it by his hands. If he cannot, then by his tongues. If he cannot, then he hates it in his heart, or he changes it by his heart, and that is the weakest of faith. Whose job is it to change all this in American society, in the world society? It's yours, it's mine. It's your job. These are campaigns that should be owned by us, that the entire world is waiting for us to champion, because they never will. They don't see them as vices. And those who do see them as vices say, what can I do? I won't change anything. And it's only you that has this paradigm that gives you this superpower to say, no, I will change it over my dead body. Last thing I'll mention is when you go, I said that already twice, I know. you guys are used to it by now. Something that's very interesting. When you go to look at the hadith of certain sahabis, as we said before, you'll see some of them, they narrated a bunch of hadith about a certain topic. It's like as if that they like this topic. This is the topic for Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. He's the one who narrates this hadith. Certain scholars, they arrange the hadith based on the companion, like Imam Ahmad. So some, like Bukhari, they arrange it based on what? On topic. The first topic is revelation. The last topic is sincerity or tawbah. So they base on topic. Imam Ahmad arranges it based on sahabi. So all the hadith of this sahabi will be in this chapter. So when you go to the section of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, you'll see a pattern. He's constantly talking about changing evil. He made it his personality. Make it yours. Make it your thing. This isn't for activists. This is for every Muslim. That this is my business to find the evil of the world and to make it a little bit less on my way out, if I can't eliminate it, if I can't replace it with good. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us agents of change, those who are incapable of witnessing evil and staying quiet or not doing anything or not being moved in our hearts. Jazakumullah khairan. Everyone, if there's any questions, we'll address them for the next, what time is the adhan? 3 minutes? Man, you guys got to throw something. Go ahead. Questions? You had one, Ahmed, earlier? You forgot it? Next time. Go ahead, sister. It's true. It's a great question. If you hate it in your heart, that might make you resentful, and that might make you act in a way that might be improper. So you always, sometimes, not always, sometimes you have to separate from the sinner and the sin. So I hate this sin, and I hate that this person is doing it. I may not hate that person particularly, because they're my sibling, or they're my family member, or they're a fellow community member, they're a Muslim. So I won't hate them, and I hate that they do this sin.